Thank you. Secretary Chao, one of the essential functions of this committee is to exercise oversight of the executive branch agencies over which we have legislative jurisdiction. It has come to our attention that the Trump administration has determined that only the chairman of a committee or subcommittee of jurisdiction may exercise the oversight function of that committee. Further, the opinion instructs that an agency should not consider an oversight request even from the ranking member of the committee or subcommittee with jurisdiction as an inquiry requiring a response. In other words, the administration will only respond to requests from Republicans and not from Democrats. As Secretary, will you assure us that the Transportation Department and modal administrations such as the FAA, FHWA, and so forth will respond substantively and timely to oversight inquiries from the Democratic members of this committee?
Number one, I always want to work across the aisle. That's always been my history. But number two, in the past administration, this practice was kept as well. And
I'm not interested in the past administration. Will you assure us that your department will respond substantively and timely to oversight requests? I will do everything I can, but it's up to the White House and what they want to do with it. Excuse me?
I will do everything I can, but it's up to the White House and this administration. I am not in charge of that policy.
Have you received instructions from the White House or anyone else to limit responses from the
Again, as I've
department?
mentioned, this is always the case. It's always been the case in past administrations.
No, it has not. I'm not talking about the legal requirement. It's been the policy to respond to majority and minority members of Congress. Have you received instructions not to respond to inquiries from Democratic members?
I have not personally, no.
Has your department received such instructions?
I will find out for you.
Thank you. I understand, because obviously such instructions, whatever the legal basis, which I'm not talking about, would be obnoxious in the extreme and a violation of all the traditions of this country from 1789. I understand, that's not a question. I understand that the President's budget proposal does not include funds for replacement of the New York Terminal Radar Approach Control Facility. As you know, this facility is 36 years old. Is the administration content to let the facility sit in need of replacement for the 7 years it could take to transition to a new air traffic control provider?
Well, I think given the questions about the real estate, I think it's probably prudent to let things set for a while until these decisions are made.
So in other words, we should let that sit for another 7 years?
I don't know whether it's going to take 7 years. The transition period proposed is 3.
Okay. Now, if this privatization proposal were to go through, whom would my constituents call when the private ATC corporation institutes a new flight route that exposes them, in their opinion, to undue noise? Who would they call?
They would call the FAA. That responsibility remains with the FAA. Noise, safety, environmental protection issues.
Okay.
That would all be with the FAA.
And finally, because if the air traffic organization is transferred to a private corporation and the remaining critical safety functions of the FAA would be paid for by the general fund and therefore still be subject to the whims of Congress, annual appropriation, sequestration, and shutdowns, why does ensuring the safety of the flying public come second to the efforts to privatize our nation's air traffic control system? One of the reasons for that privatization is that those functions would not be subject to annual appropriation, sequestration, and shutdowns, but safety still would be. So why is safety second?
In more than 60 different countries, safety and operations of the air traffic controllers are separate. Safety is an oversight issue. The way that the air traffic control actually runs the system in a safe way is paramount.
But the safety safety functions would still be subject to the problems that you say we have to get the air control away.
Congress has to do something about it.
Gentleman's time has expired. Look, we've got to keep on a pretty tight time schedule here. So with that, I recognize Mr. Gibbs for 4 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman.